I never break the fights down on only the stylistics because that's a stupid way of breaking fights down. Do not bet on a fighter because you think they're going to win. Bet on the fighter because you think the odds are good. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Lucrative MMA Betting Show. I hope you've all been well during the weekend. I hope you won your bets. I hope you enjoyed the Jon Jones versus Stipe match. But in MMA, things don't last very long. We're already looking forward to another UFC card and almost forgotten about the Bo Nichols, the Jon Joneses, the Tom Aspinalls. And now we're moving on to the Petr Yans and the Deiveson Figueiredos of the world. A banger bantamweight matchup this weekend. I definitely cannot wait for it. So the UFC is actually taking place in Macau in China this weekend. Macau is known as the Las Vegas of Asia. It's the only place in the entire country of China where casino gambling is legal. Casinos everywhere, bookmakers everywhere. Sounds like my heaven, to be honest. You know, I'm already getting withdrawal symptoms from being away from Las Vegas, so maybe Macau is the next destination before I hit Las Vegas again. But although I can't be there in the flesh this weekend and gamble in Macau, I'm still gonna gamble on the fighters that are fighting in Macau. So let's get straight into the first matchup and we go top down. So I'll speak about the main event first, the best fight on the card, an absolute banger of a matchup, a fight that I have been wanting to be put in place since Deiveson Figueiredo moved up to the bantamweight division. It is Petr Yan taking on Deiveson Figueiredo. So we got Petr Yan coming in with the 17-5 record and Deiveson Figueiredo with a record of 24-3-1. That lone draw being against Brandon Moreno. I know you guys remember that matchup. A great kickoff to the quadrilogy they had. So currently they have Petr Yan as a -300 favorite and Deiveson Figueiredo coming back at +250. So a massive odds discrepancy, and it's quite interesting to see that because obviously both fighters are highly respected in the market. Both fighters are highly respected by sports bettors and MMA analysts worldwide. So to see one fighter being such a heavy favorite, instantly it stands out to me. Instantly I'm thinking, why is this the case? Instantly I'm looking into this a little bit more. I guess people are thinking that Figueiredo is a little bit washed, especially after those Brandon Moreno fights. You know, his stock went down heavily. And that was reflected in the odds of his bantamweight matchups against people like Rob Font and Chito Vera. Now, just taking an overall look at the matchup, to be honest, I can't say that Petr Yan isn't quote-unquote washed himself. Now, I don't mean washed as in he's done in the game, you know, he can never fight at the top of the bantamweight division anymore. I just bet him in his last fight against an up-and-coming killer, Yadong Son. So I do respect him still. I still think he's a very high-level competitor, but I definitely think he's on the downslide. I think that his prime is long gone, not only physically, but maybe even mentally as well, but definitely physically. You know, the guy always has injuries. He goes into fights with injuries all the time. And just off the bat, I don't really think you can price him at -300. Now, when I look at the stylistics of the fight, I kind of understand why Yan is a favorite. I mean, he's definitely the better striker here. You know, he has way more tools. His arsenal is way wider on the feet. Deiveson Figueiredo does have that one-punch power that Petr Yan doesn't have. Even though Deiveson's moving up to bantamweight, I still think he hits a lot harder than Petr Yan. But Yan has a wider skill set on the feet. You know, sure, Deiveson is athletic. He can do spinning back kicks and stuff like that. But Petr Yan has better eyes in the pocket. He sets up his shots better. He has better volume, even better shot selection. I know Deiveson has super high level shot selection, you know, so that is quite arguable. But overall, I just think Petr Yan has the tools on the feet. Now, when it comes to the grappling, I think they cancel each other out. I mean, Petr Yan is very, very hard to grapple unless you can take him down and get the back or something like that. Now, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Deiveson Figueiredo gets a couple of takedowns here. You know, he's very athletic. He does shoot takedowns in many fights, especially lately. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get some top time here. You know, Petr Yan is very hard to hold down, but it can happen. We have seen it in the UFC. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Deiveson Figueiredo gets the back for a round, threatens some chokes, and Yan can't escape, so he loses the round 10-9 or something like that. On the other hand, I don't really see Petr Yan taking Deiveson Figueiredo down and holding him down. I see Figueiredo as the more athletic guy, and I don't think Yan has too much top time upside here. I would give Figueiredo a slight edge in that regard. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a striking fight. So I have to favor Yan in that type of fight. But at the end of the day, man, this is a game of odds, and I just can't agree with -300 on Petr Yan. 5-round fight definitely makes it more in the favor of Petr Yan, just as the Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler fight favored Charles Oliveira. You know, we could see Deiveson start off really fresh, early, look good, you know, athleticism, punch power, speed. And, you know, as we get into round 3, 4, and 5, Petr Yan excels in those rounds. He gets better, he gets stronger as the fight goes on. Look at the Corey Sandhagen fight or the Jose Aldo fight, even the first Aljo fight, even the second Aljo fight. You know, he's an elite 5-round competitor. He is a 5-round fighter. Make no mistake about it, especially as oftentimes he loses the first round almost on purpose, like Floyd Mayweather used to do in boxing, downloading data. But this honestly looks like a 48-47 type fight to me. Now, I do think Petr Yan has some finishing upside, especially late, as I said. I mean, the guy can put a pace and finish anybody late, but if he doesn't finish him, it seems like a 48-47 type fight, and I just can't get behind minus 300 price tags in a fight that I believe could be 48-47. Although Petr Yan does have the finishing upside here, so for that reason, I do understand him being a favorite, you know, blowing out a little bit more than a minus 120, minus 130. I understand it being a little bit wider, but it's just gone a bit too wide for me, boys. So I'll pick Petr Yan, but I think Deiveson Figueiredo has a very good chance to win this fight. I think he's going to look dangerous early, but he's going to need to damage Yan early. He's going to need to put a pace on him. He's going to need to damage him, because if he doesn't do that, Yan's probably going to pick him apart and just be so much fresher and so much stronger in round 4 and round 5. But make no mistake about it, I'm going to be watching these odds very closely, and I may take a position, maybe like a 1% position on Deiveson Figueiredo, purely based on the odds and obviously, you know, his skill set. In the co-main event, we have a strawweight matchup between Tabatha Ricci and Yan Xiaonan. Yan Xiaonan is coming in with a record of 18-4, and Tabatha Ricci a record of 11-2. Now, currently we have the odds sitting at a minus 190 favorite for Yan Xiaonan, with the underdog price tag for Tabatha Ricci coming in at plus 165. Now, based on the odds, and you know, I always break the fights down based on the odds. I never break the fights down on only the stylistics, because that's a stupid way of breaking fights down. You know, I mean, this is a sports betting channel, as I always say, and I always try to impart to you the knowledge that when we're betting on fights, we're betting on the fight market, we're betting on a betting market. So we have to trade numbers rather than just looking at fighters. Do not bet on a fighter because you think they're going to win. Bet on the fighter because you think the odds are good. It obviously helps if you think they're going to win, but for example, taking a shot on Romero or Lontop last week was a very good bet, regardless of both of them losing. Now, getting back onto the fight, I do agree with the odds here. I do agree with Yan Xiaonan being a favorite. I do agree with her being a moderate favorite. You know, she's not a huge favorite at minus 190, but it is a moderate favorite. And the reason I agree with that is because she's the better striker in this matchup, clearly, right? If it stays on her feet for 15 minutes, she's going to win. Now, it really comes down to if Tabatha Ricci can get her game going. Now, she is decent at evading strikes on the feet. I do think that her striking has improved a little bit. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see if she can mix up the strikes a little bit, not get touched too much, because at the end of the day, Yan Xiaonan, unless you let her tee off on you, like if you're moving around the octagon, she finds it a little bit hard to string her combinations together and get a game going. So there is a world here in which Tabatha Ricci stays on the outside, kicking, pouring, not really engaging, shoots a great time takedown, and she wins the round based off that, you know. So she definitely has winning upside in this matchup. Although I agree with the odds, I think that Tabatha Ricci has a decent chance of winning. Now, it's just really going to come down to the wrestling for me. Now, I think that Yan Xiaonan has improved her takedown defense, her grappling, her jiu-jitsu, her MMA grappling overall. You know, if you go back and look at that Carla Esparza fight, she got absolutely dominated on the ground. And I'm pretty confident in saying if they fought again today, that would not happen. And even if Carla got her down, I don't think she would just move to crucifix and completely destroy her the way she did in that fight. That's my personal opinion. I have seen evidence that Yan Xiaonan has improved her MMA grappling since that fight. So even if Tabatha Ricci gets the fight to the ground, I'm pretty confident that Yan Xiaonan will survive. Now, obviously, Ricci, you know, is a little bit slick with the jiu-jitsu. There is a world in which she finishes her. This is an MMA fight at the end of the day. But, you know, I'm pretty confident that Yan can hang with Tabatha on the ground, although I don't think she'll win there. She can most likely stay safe, stall. I don't think Tabatha will do too much damage. And she could even get a stand-up and maybe win the round back on the feet. So, yeah, it's a close fight to me, boys. I don't have like a very strong read. I don't have a heavy opinion that I'm going to drill home to you here. But I will say that I think the fight's probably going to be 29-28. I think Yan Xiaonan has big power upside on the feet, or at least big damage upside. I don't think she's so powerful, but the amount of strikes she throws, with the accuracy that she throws them, I think the damage will pile up on Tabatha Ricci's face. But I do think Tabatha Ricci's improving, you know, and we have to think, going back to Yan Xiaonan's last fight, she got absolutely dominated, obliterated. battered badly to a pulp. And, you know, we don't know how she's going to return from that. That was the China versus China super fight for the title. We don't know her mental coming into this fight. We don't know her training coming into this fight, her physicality. So that is a little bit of a question mark. It was kind of like Damon Jackson last week. You know, he was coming off one of the worst career ultra beatings that you will have seen this year. And 3 months later, he's fighting Jim Miller. He gets submitted in round 1, you know, and I do think that is probably in part due to that fight. You know, he just never really got going. We'll never know if it made a difference. You know, we can argue that for days. No one actually knows. But it's just always something you have to keep in mind, guys. So when fighters are coming back off a bad beating, it's definitely not a positive, right? It's definitely not a positive. We don't know how much of a negative it is. We don't even know if it is a negative. It might just be a neutral, but it's not a positive, right? So Xiaonan, coming back off that beating from Weili Zhang, it's not a positive. And yeah, for me at the moment, it's a pass fight. I feel like Xiaonan will win it on damage, maybe 29-28. Next fight on the card we have is Kenan Cong versus Muslim Salikov. Kenan Cong coming in with the 22-8 record, with Muslim Salikov coming in with the 20-5 record. Currently, they got Muslim Salikov as a -185 favorite, with the underdog price tag on Song Kenan coming back at +160. And pardon me, I meant to say Song Kenan, not Kenan Cong. And I think that Song Kenan has a chance of winning this fight. So just like in the first fight, I said the odds are off. You know, I don't think that Deiveson Figueiredo should be that big of an underdog. I kind of feel the same here. You know, I don't think Muslim Salikov should be a -185 underdog. I mean, he's old now. He's aging. I cashed on him in his last fight, and shout out to him, you know, but he maybe lost the fight. It was very, very close fight. And he was going up against another aging veteran in Santiago Ponzinibbio. It's not like he was fighting some up-and-comer in the division. Muslim Salikov's durability is dropping. You know, we've seen him get hurt more and more as he's got older and older. He used to be very durable. Now I don't think he is so durable. His cardio is actually a lot worse than it used to be. And it seems to me that at any point, Song Kenan can detonate a big overhand and knock this old guy out, or at least to the ground. Now, I understand Salikov is a better striker technically. You know, he's going to be bouncing in and out of range. He's going to be measuring distance. I think he'll have a very good round 1. But I don't think it's going to be long before Song is able to catch up with him, use his physicality, use his youth, or at least youth advantage. I think he's probably more durable at this stage. I mean, they're both historically durable, but I really do think Muslim is going to start getting dropped and knocked out a lot more than we're ever used to from him. I mean, he's old for the division. Like, Salikov's 40 years old. I mean, at this weight class at 40 years old, you don't have long left in the game. And there's definitely an edge to be made on fighters who you can see are declining, but are still on a win streak or maybe won their last fight. Because we know recency bias is massive in this game. Muslim won his last fight. Everyone thinks he's still, or at least the market's thinking maybe he's not that washed. I think he's washed, guys. I really do. And I think that Kenan Cong was never an amazing fighter, a great fighter. But I do think he has the durability, the toughness, and the power to find a kill shot or rot Muslim in this fight. So yeah, +160 underdog. I think that's a good underdog on the card. I think that anybody watching this video, if you want to take a shot on an underdog, I know a lot of people don't like playing underdogs, but if you want to take a shot on an underdog, I think that Song Kenan is most certainly a good underdog on the card to take. Next fight is Wang versus Gabriella Fernandes. Now, I'm going to be very fast on this, right? I haven't done a lot of tape study, and as you know, I'm fully honest and open with you. So I'm going to come out and tell you if I've done the research or not. I haven't done a lot of research on this fight, so I'm not going to sit here for hours telling you who I think is going to win. What I will do is break down this fight in full to my members' website as soon as I do the tape study and research in full. And while we're on the topic, if you want to sign up with me and get my full picks and predictions for this weekend, along with my long shot prop bets, last week we hit Bo Nickel decision at +850, my long shot parlays, my full card breakdowns, the bets for the regional scene, as well as the UFC, Bellator, PFL, etc. You can go to lucrativemmabetting.com, sign up for a package with me there. There's multiple packages depending on what one you want, and you'll get access to all that content. So yeah, going back to this fight, boys, Wang's odds seem crazy to me. -800 is kind of nuts. I did bet her in her last fight to win via KO. It happened in like 60 seconds. So yeah, it was definitely a good bet, one of the easiest monies I've made this year. But at the end of the day, man, we don't know too much about her. I do think she's going to win the fight. You know, she seems like a real prospect in the division. But at the end of the day, we don't really know too much about her wrestling, too much about her grappling. She's a striker, you know, and Gabriella Fernandes also likes to keep it on the feet. I do think she'll probably mix in some takedowns here in wrestling. I mean, what else are you going to do against Cong Wang? You know, I would do that if I was her. I personally don't think she's going to be able to implement it. I mean, from what I've seen, and like I said, I will research this heavier, Cong Wang is a very, very good prospect. She could be the real deal. And Gabriella Fernandes, she's just not all there, man. I bet against her in her last fight. I think that was a bad decision. You know, I personally had her losing the fight, but I'm biased because I bet against her, so whatever. It was a close fight. I've been getting all of those bounces against me this year, so it's just one of those things. I also bet against Jasmine Jasudavicius, and Jasmine was the underdog in that fight, which is crazy when you think about it. So I'm not this big Fernandes girl. I don't think she's this great fighter. You know, I don't bet on her that often. I fade her a lot, but I can't be fading her at -800 price tags. Maybe I look for a decision prop or a KO prop, but you know, I'll make my full decision after I do tape study. Obviously, right now the pick is Cong Wang. I think she could be the real deal. Now, the next fight is between Volkan Oezdemir versus Carlos Ulberg, and obviously Carlos Ulberg is coming out the City Kickboxing Gym. You know, I have friends in the City Kickboxing Gym, main training partners of Carlos, so I'm not going to say too much, boys. I'll keep some of this information that I've got from the camp on my website. I won't say too much, but I will say that this is a big step up for Carlos Ulberg. You know, I don't think he's ever fought anyone of this caliber before. I will also say that he's, you know, the same size favorite as he was against way lower level fighters, stepping up against someone who's proven himself time and time again in the top 5, top 10. So I feel like the odds are based on recency bias, not on skill set. You know, I'm pretty confident in saying that. You know, we just had it last week where Veronica Hardy was fighting her toughest test in the UFC, and she was the biggest favorite she's ever been in the UFC after a comeback. It was just stupid. And it's just based on recency bias. So while I'm not going to go into the stylistics of this matchup right now on this video, I will tell you some market narrative, and I truly believe that the line is based on recency bias for Carlos Ulberg. Obviously, he can land his kill shot here. You know, Volkan's been rocked, hurt and dropped and knocked out in multiple fights, but you know, outside of the fights that he's been like hurting or finished in, he seems durable. It's not like every fight, even in his wins or even in his decision losses, he's getting rocked and stuff. He seems like a durable guy. The guys that are knocking him out and hurting him are big power hitters, you know, so I think he's pretty durable. Carlos can clip anybody. He's very clean on the feet, very good outside kickboxing, range finding, and I do think that Volkan will have some trouble getting into range, but if Volkan pressures him, hits him with hard leg kicks, and is able to get into that mid/boxing range, I think he can tee off on him on the feet. You know, Volkan has very tight hands, very good strikes. He seems almost stiff at times, but he's got a lot of power in that stiffness, and Carlos needs to be careful, because if he gets backed up against the cage and if he takes the back foot, which he can be known to do some fights, especially if you pressure him, if he takes the back foot, obviously he could catch Volkan coming in, but if he doesn't do that, he's going to be constantly walking back. Volkan's going to have the optics, you know, walking forward, and Volkan's going to have a good chance to put something heavy on him. So yeah, that's all I'm going to say for this one, boys. Like I said, I'm going to keep some information close to my chest on this one out of respect for my friends who train at City Kickboxing, but it's another one where it seems like the odds could be a little bit wide. So that's it, boys. That's the show for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I also brung back my show Parlay Madness last week. I hope you enjoyed that one. I was getting hundreds of comments, people telling me to bring Parlay Madness back, literally hundreds of comments. So, you know, I did it last week. I may do it again this week. It's going to depend if I had time. I also gave out a 3-month membership last week to one of the commenters. We're not going to spin the wheel today, the Wheel of Fortune, but most likely we'll bring that back next week. So make sure you're commenting on the video for a chance to win. And if you don't want to wait till next week to see if I'm spinning the Wheel of Fortune or if you've won, then you can go to my website right now, lucrativemmabetting.com. Support me, sign up for my service, get all of my official releases, picks, predictions, and a bunch of other content that you already know. If you don't, still good luck on your plays. It's us against the bookies. I'm hoping we cash big this weekend. So that's it for me this week, boys, and I'll see you in the next video.